Let's take a small tour of all of the different files and folders created by our Django project. So just to recollect, this my site, this is a folder created by Django, and since we have named our project as my site, that's why this folder is called as my site. And here you can see that we have one more file which is called as db.sqlite3. So what happens is Django by default for development, it is going to use a database, and by default it is going to use SQLite database. I'll show you from where it comes. The next file manage.py, so this is like the working horse file of our Django. So whenever you want to create any other application, or whenever you want to create a super user, or if you want to run the server, we are always going to invoke this file. The next one we have already discussed, so this is the log file for all of our dependencies, and this is our toml file. Now let's go to the project folder. So let me click on my site. So here you can see that we have a lot of different files and folders. So the first one, py cache, so this is a cache folder created by Python itself. We don't have to touch this one. So this is just a blank init file, so this just initializes this folder as a package. The next and the most important file is this one, settings.py. So this file alone has all of the settings for our project. So we will check out all of the settings one by one as we progress inside the tutorials. But right now just keep in mind, if you want to change any of the settings for Django, then this is the file to access. The next important file is for the URLs. Now just imagine whenever you are using a website, you have to navigate to different routes or different locations. For example, if you want to go to a home page, or if you want to go to a contact page or an about us page. So all of those, they are called as URLs. So for example, if you go right over here, let me scroll to the top, and if I just go to django.com, so here you can see that this is a URL. Now if I click on documents, so you can see the URL has changed and this is the new URL. So that's what we are trying to say right over here. So this file will contain all of the URLs which our project will have, and also in the future when we create a lot of applications, even those URLs would be imported in this file as well. So just keep in mind, whenever you want to create a route or an URL, that has to be added in this file as well. The next file are for your WSGI and ASCII. Right now just ignore those files, let them be there. So normally if we are running Django synchronously, then we would use a WSGI server, or if we are running Django asynchronously, then we would use an ASCII server. But that's it for now. Let us not go in too much detail with these things as of now. Now let's try to head over to the documentation and let's see what we have to do next. So we were right over here in part number 1. Let me scroll down. So till now we have created our project called as my site, and then we have already seen the development server. We know how to run the server, and after running the server, this is how it is looking. Now let me go back. Let me try to scroll a little bit down. So the next thing is they are trying to show you how to work with different port numbers. By default, it will work on port 8000. So let me open up the URL one more time. So this thing that you can see over here, 8000. So this is the port number. In case if you want to change, you can change in this way, but let's not go into all of those details as of now. Let us go to the next section. So this is saying that creating the polls app. Now it is saying that now that your environment, a project is set up, you are set to start doing work. So what it means is, since we have a project, now we can start creating small applications inside our project. So normally what would happen is a big project would require different functionalities. For example, you may require a blog, or if you have an e-commerce website, then you may need different applications to handle your payments, billings, and for your catalogs and products. So all of these different functionalities can be imagined as small applications inside your project. And in our current project, we are going to create an application which is dedicated just for polls. And the way to do it is right over here. So we have to type this one, python manage.py start app polls. Now always keep in mind manage.py is the file that will invoke all of the commands. So we need to be in the directory where we have this file. Let me copy this. Let me go to my terminal. Let me stop my server. You can stop the server by pressing Ctrl and C. Let me clear all of these things up. Now, before I invoke that command, let us go back over here. Let me collapse this one. So here we can see that we have just one folder of my site, and this is for the cache. Just ignore this one. Now watch what happens. Let me paste the command over here and let me press enter. Now if I go back to my code editor, we can see that Django has created a new directory by the name of polls. So this is a new application created inside our project, and inside this application we have a lot of default files. So we have a folder for migrations, admin, apps, models, test, views, and so on. So what happens is, normally whenever you build an application, we require some default functionalities. So normally we would require some models to be in place, we would require some views, and also some testing to be done. So Django by default gives us all of these files. If we want to use any of the functionality, then we can keep the files or we can change them. Or if you want some more additional functionality, then we can always create some more files inside our polls application, or if you don't want anything, we can remove them. So let's go back to the documentation and let us see what we are supposed to do next. So here they are discussing the directory structure. So this is what I described right now. And the next thing is they are showing you how to write your first view. But before we write a view, we have to understand a lot of things. We have to understand what is the request and what is the response. And that's what we would be doing next.